This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Thank you. You're way too thank you. I see you guys out there. You're great. Anyway, we have in the sponsor opportunity green room John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer, and King Gift Egbelu, who's now acting allegedly as executive producer of this program. They are preparing diligently because if you look at the Your Company Name Here slate, we have a full show, including the great George Hook once again. So let's not waste any more time. Let's bring in John and Gift. Guys, 29, 19, and 3. The 3 came on the tie, of course, between the point spread and Samoa and Chile. It was a 33-point spread in favor of Samoa, and the final score was 43-10. With that, we were very good. And John, in Rugby World Cup picks, you were 6-1-1. Take a bow, John. Slam the football.
No, I'm not. No, when Jesse Owens won the 100 meters in 1936, you know what he did? He went to the locker room and took off his cleats.
He was afraid for his life. That's why he did it.
No, he did it to stand up a bad person. Same the way that me and the king stand up you. Bam!
Boom!
Gift. You were 3-4-1 in Rugby World Cup picks.
Hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay because one of those losses was because I actually believed in Fiji to take out Australia. And Australia just got a lucky little 3-point try at the end. Lucky try that meant nothing.
Bam! Tell about the fact that you picked Australia.
I picked Australia. You know why? Because I had 54 years of history on my side, and that Eddie Jones can't coach a wiffle ball team.
Hey, you know what you need? You need something for your mouth because that language was atrocious. We have Mr. Hook coming on here, and Stephen Lewis's mother watches this show, and she's a wonderful lady.
She'd have a few things to say about Eddie Jones, too.
You're the one that bet with Eddie Jones, not the king and I.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. And there's irony. The guys, their nose is so far up his,
Bam!
They could feel his tonsils.
Who put their money behind him? Bam!
Boom!
All right. We do have the order of business to get to on the wooden spoon and the walk of shame. Management has compiled the stats. John, overall, you were 10-6-1. Very good. Gift, you were 8-8-1. You made up for it picking in the NPC. That was very good. You had a good week in the NPC. And yours truly was 11-5-1. John, you were second, so you don't get the wooden spoon. And unfortunately, Gift, you get the wooden spoon this week.
Hey, all the more to paddle with as we get closer to these games that matter.
Paddle. That's right.
You keep paddling. You keep getting that wooden spoon. And then we have the walk of shame. You guys are in the walk of shame together because you both turned your noses and played Brutus with your boy, Eddie Jones.
No, we didn't turn on Eddie Jones. We believe in the power of Fiji. Let players choose where they actually want to play.
One of the most iconic moments in Madison Square Garden history was Jimmy Superfly Snuka climbing to the top of the cage, diving off that cage on the dime Morocco. Bam! 1, 2, 3. I don't know how many people it held, but about 100,000 people in history have said, oh, I was there. They weren't all there because it holds about 18,000 people. But you know where he's from? And his beautiful daughter, Tamina, is also from the island of Fiji. Same as Wassel Serevi, who's done so much, the greatest sevens player of all time. We love Fiji and all of our Fijian brothers.
Waiseli Serevi, if you're
That's
referring.
what I just said.
Okay, no, that's
Actually,
not what he said.
but okay, whatever.
That's not what he said. Don't stick up for him. Don't stick up for him. All right. Congratulations to both of you in the walk of shame.
Yes, yes, yes.
I went to the World Cup with Serevi. Me and Gareth Noakes, my buddy from Wales.
It's not Wells either. It's Wales.
We were there. We know what it was. It was Wales versus South Africa. And I was with Serevi and Gareth Noakes.
Let's take a quick break and welcome in George Hook after this.
Fiji.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at she.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. And we are back, welcoming in Mr. George Hook once again. George, glad to have you.
Let's go.
This show is so much better with Mr. George Hook. We should just let him have the show, and we shouldn't even do it.
Let's not get petty, John, because that's where you're going. George, let's get this going with you starting us off on what we learned in round 2 of the Rugby World Cup.
Well, what we've learned about the latest round of the World Cup is there is now a diminishing number of people on the planet who can remember when rugby was a game in which you passed the ball. I would remind the historians amongst us that the game started at rugby school when William Webb Ellis, in defiance of the rules thereon, picked up the ball and ran with it. If William Webb Ellis picked up the ball and ran with it in France, God knows what might happen. We are now looking at the best teams in the world just kicking the ball. Australia, under pressure to lose under Fiji, needing 7 points to get a bonus point. They kicked the ball 7 times in a row. Now, what we are seeing here also is another diminishing group of people who can remember when England, Wales, and Australia could play rugby. They don't play rugby anymore. Yeah, so what we are now going to see is the demise of the game. And I'm actually serious. Like, I'm not sure what killed off the dinosaur, but I'm pretty certain what killed off rugby in England, Wales, and Australia, it's the way the game is actually being played. Now, who will replace these? Very interesting. Tier 2 demonstrated that 4 years from now, they can be real contenders.
What do you mean by real contenders, George? Contending for the Cup?
Well, certainly England, Wales, and Australia aren't going to be contending for the Cup in 4 years' time. It's quite possible that rugby mightn't even exist in Australia, given the competition from rules and from soccer. It mightn't even exist. And so England, despite having the largest number of players on the planet, they may not be any good. Now, Napoleon, can I bring you back to Napoleon just for a second?
Yes.
They hired a new general. Did Napoleon say, is he good with forward planning or defense or attack? No. Napoleon said, is he lucky? He would have hired Borthwick in a heartbeat for the Battle of Waterloo. Did you see the 2 tries they got against Japan? The first one, Japan had won the line out and somehow succeeded in giving the ball away to England. A second one, and they've got to bring in a new rule now, in which heading the ball actually qualifies as a forward pass. The try under the sticks by Courtney Laws was miraculous. So you're going to look at Japan as serious contenders in the future. You look at Fiji. Crucially, they lost their goal kicker at halftime, scrum half. They then missed 2 kicks at goal, which meant Australia got a bonus point. That might be vital when we come to the end. Samoa, I'm not so sure about. Tonga always were and will continue to be the number 3 island nation. But one of them, Fiji, makes the quarterfinal. That's very important. Only 3 teams can now win this tournament.
Which we kind of suspected was going to happen in this setup, but
We didn't kind of suspect. We knew it was going to happen. Mr. Ford told us the A and B groups got the champion in it. So we knew.
Mr. Ford told us?
Man, Mr. Hook, I'm confused with your boyfriend, George Ford, who you love so much. All you were texting me about was, hey, how great is George Ford? He's the greatest thing ever.
If you're going to come on here and just blatantly lie, go right ahead, but I'm going to call you out on it.
You know how much you love George Ford.
He does love him some England.
Me and England, we're like this.
I tell you what we learned. We learned that World Rugby, to me, is an absolute disgrace. And I tell you why. You have a country like Fiji. This is a real story. You need these in tournaments. You need a Cinderella team that nobody expects. They could actually make the finals because of where they are located in the tournament. But you're looking at, say, France's back row. You're looking at Scotland's. Look at Ireland's. I think that is an absolute disgrace to poach these guys from these island countries and take them to tier 1 countries, because all you're doing is making the tier 1 countries consistently better than everybody else. So you need to make a rule that if you go up from tier 2, tier 3 to tier 1, you have a longer time of naturalization. So maybe you take it from 5 years to 10 years, whatever it is. If you go down, that rule doesn't exist, or it's a much smaller rule. You got to stop this recruiting from these guys. All you're doing is taking the best players out of these countries, putting them on tier 1 countries, and decimating that. You're say you're going to grow the game? Bull. You're not trying to grow the game. World Rugby is only interested in making money off the tier 1 countries. They've consistently shown that time and time again, and they got to stop this poaching from smaller countries to tier 1 countries.
We just heard from the American version of George Hook. Gift, go ahead.
First and foremost, Uruguay taught us that everything that we have ever complained about at USA Rugby, about our numbers, about our growth, about everything, is complete and utter BS. We literally need none of the stuff that we've talked about to actually compete against the top nation, not the C squad of a one-town team. Uruguay taught us we can keep up, or we should have, but we simply are not doing it to ourselves. Number 2, Fiji, I will disagree with one thing. It'll be the first time I ever disagree with the champ. I don't think Fiji is a Cinderella team. It's just a team that's finally allowed to actually load up the way that they're supposed to. And you're seeing it because they are playing with a battery in their back. And we got to see the difference between a team that plays with a spirit and a team that simply just plays because they know how to. And lastly, I don't know what Ireland is. This next 2 weeks is the time that I'm actually going to see who Ireland truly is, because up to this point, they haven't played anybody yet. And Scotland and South Africa are actually going to determine whether they're going to go on to the next one or not.
But they have beaten those lesser teams the way they were supposed to beat them.
It just shows that you're supposed to beat teams you're supposed to. That's not going to take you over to the group stage. That just bolsters your points. But if you're going to beat South Africa, if they can beat South Africa, and actually, I'm actually going to say this, I don't know if they'll be able to beat Scotland, because Scotland's defense is something. So I'm looking to see if Ireland actually shows up, or did we just get the best whale inside the barrel?
Yeah, just because you knock out a tomato can, that does not make you Muhammad Ali.
There we go.
Love that analogy. George, I've learned that you are right a lot of the time, and we should listen to you. You were right about France versus New Zealand, and you were certainly right about South Africa's kicking woes this week when they had Faf come in off the bench to play fly half, where he actually facilitated some nice offensive play, but then when he kicked for post, he missed. So until Pollard's ready, South Africa's got to get that figured out. It's like they have no closer in baseball. Let's take a break and come back, and we'll ask Mr. Hook some questions and gain from his wisdom. We'll be right back. You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back, and John was just bashing Oklahoma and Canada. Unfortunately,
yes, I was. We need a wall between us and Oklahoma to keep the Okies out of the promised land, and a wall of Canada to keep Canadians up there with their moose and their curling. God bless Texas.
All right, so let's see what we can gain in knowledge from Mr. Hook. John goes first.
Mr. Hook, Ireland, South Africa, typical classic matchup. They say matchups make fights, at least in heavyweight boxing, it certainly does. You've got the northern hemisphere of a typical 3 yards in a cloud of dust, as we used to say about college football, and the southern hemisphere about running and gunning and passing the ball a lot. You mentioned kicking. What style of rugby is going to end up winning through all this?
Sadly, the team that kicks the ball the most is going to win. And France have kicked the ball as much as anybody, but they got a better PR organization, so people have noticed it as much. But South Africa, Ireland is your question. Rassie Erasmus is suggesting that the split on the bench will be 7-1.
Wow.
7 forwards, 1 back. Now that means at halftime, in effect, he's going to bring a different team on. So that's going to be difficult for Ireland, because if you go back over the great history we had in the European Championship, the games we lost, like Leinster in the final as recently as 5 months ago, we were beaten up by La Rochelle up front. That's precisely what South Africa are going to do. They are going to strangle Ireland. There's no point in thinking we're very good at getting the ball wide. We are. We might have the best back three in the championship. But if you don't get the ball, it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, the way this game is going, it's going to be the bigger battalions. France and South Africa are just going to kick the manure out of their opponents. And that's sadly where the game is going.
Well, George, Mark's being out for the tournament for South Africa is a big blow, and Etzebeth has that shoulder issue. Do you think injuries will affect this Saturday's match?
I don't think injuries will affect this Saturday's match. Ultimately, injuries might well affect the destination of the trophy. I mean, it would be inconceivable that Ireland could win the World Cup, for instance, if Sexton at number 10 got hurt, or France if Andre Dupont at scrum half got hurt, or in the case of South Africa, if Andre Pollard, a late arrival as he is, got hurt. I think South Africa comfortably, although Marks is a key player, they can manage without it.
Gift.
So I have really 2 questions. My first one is, do you feel that the difference in any population actually makes a difference to how well a team is supposed to play? Because it doesn't even feel like money now has become an issue.
The tier 2 nations, the only way they can compete is by actually playing better rugby. So the best rugby in this tournament has been played by Portugal or Chile, as my experts tell me, although forever for Irish people it will be Chile, but Chile and Portugal and Fiji, of course, but are playing the game as I knew and loved. The game I knew and loved is not being played by New Zealand, South Africa, England particularly, and Wales. Like, England were awful against Japan. Wales were awful against Samoa. If I was to put my tiny old age pension of $350 a week on a winner, I think it'd have to be South Africa.
The next one was, do you feel like the rains in Ireland are acting as a metaphor for what's to come for the rest of this tournament for Ireland itself too?
Yeah, I mean, this draw has made a mess of the tournament. The latest news from World Rugby makes me want to just put the pillow over my head and die. Their new plan is, as you know, the scrum is nonsense, the way you put the ball. The law still stands, crooked in at the scrum, but it doesn't exist. They got a new one, crooked in at the line out. We're going to see it after the World Cup. If you throw the ball in crooked at the line out, but your opponents do not contest. It's not cricket. What kind of an idiot dreamt up that? The idiot is the Irish for idiot.
All right. Okay, you've already picked South Africa. Can Samoa beat Argentina?
No. I mean, Argentina are not going to play twice like they played before. Michael Check is too good for that. Argentina will beat Samoa, I think, relatively comfortably. I think Argentina will qualify out of that group.
Does Wales end up beating Australia?
Yes. Wales will top the group, and Fiji will come second, and Australia will fail to qualify. And Eddie Jones will then join a list of people who have been massively
overhyped, I think, is the expression we're going for.
Eddie Jones has nothing to offer the game of rugby. Nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Hook, for coming on.
Yeah, okay. God bless. Take care.
We'll be right back after John Bradshaw Layfield and King Gift Egbelu lick their wounds after their man crush, Eddie Jones, just got bashed. Don't go away. From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. And we're back. And again, how great was it having Mr. Hook on with us once again?
That man is a fountain that has no ending, no depth to it. All kinds deep as the freaking oceans of rugby. And you ask him the most insane questions ever.
In the interest of moving along and sticking to the schedule, I'm not gonna argue with you guys, okay? I just want to get the people their money. So let's get to the
What's your language?
Okay?
Mama Lewis watches this show.
In the NRL, and then there were 4. You got Friday Night Lights, and Saturday it's going to be rocking in Sydney. You've got the Storm versus the Panthers, and then the New Zealand Warriors coming in to face the Broncos of Brisbane. John, who do you like, Storm versus Panthers?
This bottle was empty when we started this. You know why? Because the Broncos, they've been winning game after game after game, and I've been betting on them, and I'm betting on them again. Broncos.
Right, so, but they're not in the Storm versus Panthers match, so who do you like in the Storm versus
Panthers? I want the Broncos versus Warriors. I'm talking Broncos. I got a jar full of money and a cowboy hat on top of it. I want to talk Broncos.
Okay, John. Gift, out of the Broncos versus Warriors match, who do you like?
Man, I love me some Panthers. They are sleek, they are out there, and they are taking care of business. Look, the Storm might be blowing, but the Panthers are going to come scratching, and that's the right kind of cat you want to scratch.
Bam!
So you got some cat scratch fever.
Hey.
Ooh. All right, I'll land this baby. I like the Panthers, and I like the Broncos. John, you're not going to make a pick in the Storm versus Panthers match?
Panthers!
And Gift, you're not making a pick in the Warriors versus Broncos?
Yo, here for the Broncos. They've been doing it all year.
All right, we're all with the Broncos, and we're disrespecting the whole country of New Zealand in the process. Let's move to the NPC, speaking of New Zealand. John, a little extra pressure on you this week because you were 4-3 in NPC picks. Gift and I were exceptional. How are you going to catch up to us? What's your pick this week?
You don't make simple math into trigonometry, okay? You just don't overthink things. Matt, you don't think things. You don't overthink things. You don't underthink things. You don't think. But what I'm going to tell you to do is what to do, and that is bet Wellington.
All right, I'm not crazy about how you got there, but I think it's a good pick. Gift?
Hey, look, man, there's nothing like being in the center of the attention, and that means being the center of the country, which doesn't necessarily mean physically center, but can be the center of what that country needs, and that's Auckland. That's Auckland, and that Auckland team is looking to take itself over Taranaki this week.
I'm sticking with Canterbury over Tasman, and we're running out of time, but we got to get to the Rugby World Cup. Who do you like in this round, Gift?
Wales, Australia. This is going to be the 3rd time they play each other in the stage final, in this group stage, in 3 World Cups in a row, and they're 1-1 so far. Australia is the favorite for some odd reason. Wales, that red flag, the dragon is about to blow fire on some wallabies.
Okay, John?
I am going to concur. Nigel Owens, the greatest referee of all time. He heard I had a program in Bermuda. He sent me a game jersey. He just got back from the Rugby World Cup to auction off, raised thousands of dollars. What a wonderful human being. He's from Wales. Gareth Noakes, my mate, is from Wales. Wales is going to boat race them boys is what they going to do. Go ahead and show up, Australia. Wales is waiting for you with the red dragon. Wales all the way.
All right, so I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go with Portugal closing that gap on 15.5 points versus Georgia. I like Portugal. I know they're going to be banged up after their heroic performance last week, but I think they're going to keep that closer than Georgia would like. Picks of the week, Gift, go first.
South Africa over Ireland, simply because of the fact that I feel like South Africa is playing with absolute reckless abandon, and that is a different level of passion. They are willing to put their bodies on the line and break people. And once again, Sai Kolisi is just playing on demon time.
John?
Scotland got one of the terrible draws that Mr. Hook was talking about. However, this week, they're going to take it out on Tonga. They are a good rugby team, a good rugby country. They're going to roll them boys.
I think that's a great pick. Scotland is a solid rugby team.
I don't care if you think it's a great pick. I think it's a great pick. That's all I need to know. I don't need justification from you.
You don't need justification from the all-time The Rugby Odds picks leader.
You keep the ledger. It's like playing golf with somebody that cheats. If you got the pencil, you're the best.
When it's on air
it's like
and it's in graphics,
hey,
it's not cheating.
What did you shoot?
Plugs. Gift.
Hey, first one goes to Nigeria for getting 8th in the Zimbabwe Olympic qualifiers. We jumped from 22 to 8. Thank you to Stephen Lewis. And then, of course, the Nigerian boys like Dr. Boom, Freddie, Henry Ajua, and the rest of them. And then, of course, as per usual, health enhanced foods, man. Help your gut health, help your mental health, help your body health, to be able to get the right breads that you can have for the morning, the evening, and the afternoon, because ain't nothing like a good, healthy food day.
John.
Huge shout out to Stephen Lewis. Great job coaching. Stephen Lewis, Mr. Lewis, when you left Matt McCarthy in DC, you became one of my heroes. You were on Mount Olympus to me. I love you, Stephen Lewis. Big shout out to Stories of Briscoe and Bradshaw, all kinds of legends like Stephen Lewis, owner of our podcast, telling all kinds of great stories. Check it out on YouTube. Matt's never been on it. King will be on it.
I second it. You got to check that out. It's great. Also, Mr. Hook's podcast, George Hook, Talking Rugby World Cup. Just go to his Twitter handle, GHook. And, of course, the world's best rugby pub, The Pig and Whistle in New York City on West 36th Street. Best place to watch rugby, specifically the Rugby World Cup. On that note, we are out of time. I want to thank the WWE Hall of Famer John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gift Egbelu, who is now acting as executive producer of this show, Mr. George Hook, who is absolutely great, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including MLR Weekly, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Please sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.
Take 400.